Hello, dear learner, welcome. Imagine a sky so bright it forgets yesterday. Now imagine a tiny bird who cannot. In the hush before sunrise, a willow warbler named Sori perched on a silver birch, ribs rising like small oars, paddling against a sea of memories. He wore the past like a little pack. Threads of old fears, dried petals of lost chances, and one smooth pebble for every promise that broke. Each dawn he tried to sing, but the notes dragged as if laced with stones. Other birds skimmed the light like thrown seeds. Sori stayed low, wing beats heavy, eyes snagged on what had been. He remembered a storm that tore his nest, a shadowed hawk, a branch that snapped. The forest had healed, but his heart kept replaying the crack. Hold tight, he told himself, so it never surprises you again. Yet holding tight pulled him downward, and somewhere inside that small chest, a quiet question fluttered. If the past keeps him safe, why does it hurt so much? The forest whispered with morning wind, but Sori did not hear its song. His ears still echoed with yesterday's storms. Other birds dipped and rose, slicing the air in sharp arcs. Yet he dragged himself across the branches like a traveler with too much baggage. Each beat of his wings reminded him of the pebble pack strapped beneath his heart. It was not real cloth, nor real stone, only memories hardened into weight. Still, it felt heavier than any hunter's net. Sometimes Sori tried to lift higher, but the past tugged him down like unseen roots. He envied the swallows who laughed for the dawn, forgetting yesterday's hunger, forgetting last night's rain. How do they do it? He wondered. Don't they fear we'll all break again? His chest trembled with the answer he could not yet give. Perhaps forgetting was the very thing that kept him free. But Sori clung tighter to his invisible pouch, believing without it he might vanish too. One evening, as the sky melted into rose and violet, Sori landed by a quiet stream. He bent his head to drink, but instead of water, he saw his reflection, small, ruffled, eyes heavy with yesterday. Around him, fireflies began their glowing dance, careless and brief, living only for the shimmer of now. Sori felt a sting in his chest. He remembered the nest that once glowed with warmth, the tiny siblings he had lost to the storm. The image of their still wings haunted him, as if they were trapped in the pouch he carried. If I let go, will I lose them forever? He whispered into the rippling water. The stream answered with silence, carrying leaves away without effort, without sorrow. Sori watched as each leaf floated onward, unburdened, unafraid of where the current would lead. For a moment, he wished he could do the same. Yet, when he tried to imagine letting go, fear clamped tighter than ever. The next dawn brought an unexpected encounter. A gray owl, wise with the years of countless nights, perched upon an oak branch above Sori. His amber eyes glowed like twin lanterns. "Little one," the owl said, voice low as a drumbeat in the earth, "why do your wings tremble so when the wind is calm?" Sori tilted his head, unsure whether to answer, but something in those steady eyes loosened his beak. "I carry everything," he confessed, "every memory, every loss, every mistake. If I let them go, I'll forget who I am." The owl studied him with patient silence, then spoke. "And if you never let them go, will you ever know who you could be?" The question cracked open the air. Sori's feathers bristled. He wanted to answer, yet no words came. Instead, he looked down, realizing that perhaps he was not just carrying the past. Perhaps the past was carrying him away from life itself. Days passed, but the owl's question clung to Sori like dew that refused to dry. Who could you be? The words circled his thoughts as he flew lower and slower than the others. One afternoon, the flock rose high, racing the clouds, while Sori remained behind, gasping with the weight of his pouch of memories. He tried to join them, wings straining, but he faltered and fell back. Shame burned through his feathers. From above, he heard their laughter ripple like bells. They weren't mocking him. They were simply free. Their joy was effortless, unchained from yesterday. Sori landed on a mossy stone, chest heaving, heart aching. He pressed his wings against himself, whispering, "Maybe this is all I am, a bird meant to walk instead of fly." The thought chilled him. For the first time, he feared not just the past, but a future where he never touched the open sky again. That night, The forest was drenched in moonlight. The silver beams fell on every branch, but to Sori they felt like chains, exposing his weakness. He dreamed restlessly, seeing himself soaring as once before, only to be yanked back by the heavy pouch that clattered with stones of memory. In the dream, one stone slipped free. He reached to catch it, terrified it might vanish, but the wind snatched it and carried it away. Strangely, instead of pain, he felt a sudden lightness. For the first time in ages, his wings lifted without strain. He awoke with startled breath, feathers damp from night mist. Was that freedom? He wondered. The thought unsettled him. If even a single stone gone could ease his flight, what would happen if he released them all? His heart battled between longing and fear. The moon seemed to whisper, "Test it, little one. Test the sky without your burden." The next morning, Sori perched on a high branch, clutching the pouch of stones tighter than ever. His chest pounded as though it already knew what he must attempt. "Just one," he murmured. Carefully, he loosened the pouch and let a single stone tumble. It struck a root below with a faint click, echoing louder in his heart than thunder. Sori gasped, wings quivering. He expected sorrow to claw at him, guilt to pierce him, but instead, he felt a breath of space inside his chest. A small, delicate lightness spread through his wings. He stretched them wide and took off. To his surprise, the air lifted him a little higher, carrying him with less struggle. The difference was slight, but real. "So it's true," he whispered mid-flight, eyes brightening. Yet as he landed, another fear gripped him. If one stone could change him so much, what if letting go meant he no longer remembered who he was? For days, Sori repeated his secret ritual. Each morning, he dropped one stone, watching it disappear into the forest floor. With every release, his wings grew lighter, his song clearer, though his heart still quaked with doubt. "Am I betraying them?" he whispered to the night, thinking of the lost nest, the broken branch, the storms that had shaped him. But the owl, perched silently nearby, finally spoke. "Memory is not stone, little one. It lives in you, even without the weight." Sori listened, uncertain. Could it be true? The forest itself seemed to answer. Trees still remembered the storm by the way they leaned. Rivers still carried yesterday's leaves. Yet none of them clung to their burdens. They grew, they flowed, they lived. Slowly, Sori began to rise with the others, no longer lagging far behind. A fragile spark of joy flickered in him, something he had not felt in seasons. Hope. One dawn, golden and wide, Sori soared higher than he had in years. The flock gathered around him, chirping with surprise, for he was no longer the bird who dragged shadows through the air. His wings cut the sky cleanly, like fresh brushstrokes across a canvas. Joy swelled in his chest, yet underneath, fear still whispered. What if I forget them all? What if freedom means losing myself? The thought pulled him downward for a moment. He landed on a willow branch, trembling, unsure. The owl found him again and said, "Child, remembering is not in the stones you carry. It is in the flight you take. Every rise you make honors what was lost. Every song you sing keeps them alive, not the weight upon your back." Sori gazed at the sky, uncertain but moved. Could memory truly be honored without chains? The question lingered like dawn mist, urging him toward a choice. That evening, storm clouds returned, rolling black across the horizon. The flock scattered, darting for shelter, but Sori hesitated. Once, storms had broken his world. He had sworn never to forget their fury, never to be unprepared again. His pouch, though lighter, still clung to his side. He felt the familiar urge to clutch it tight, as if the stones could shield him. But then he remembered the stream carrying leaves without fear, the owl's voice like truth carved into bark. Heart pounding, he made a bold choice. With trembling wings, he unfastened the pouch and let the last of the stones fall. They tumbled into the dark grass, swallowed by the earth. At first, terror stabbed through him. He was naked without his burden. But as the storm wind swept in, they lifted him higher than ever before. No longer weighed down, he cut through the wind like lightning itself. The storm raged, but Sori did not falter. He rose with the winds, gliding between flashes of silver lightning, his heart pounding not with fear, but with wonder. The rain struck his feathers, yet instead of dragging him down, it washed him clean. For the first time, the storm felt less like an enemy and more like a wild partner, pushing him to dance. Below, the forest bent and swayed, but Sori's wings cut through the chaos with strength he never knew he possessed. So this is what it means, he thought, to fly without yesterday's chains. When the storm finally broke and the moon returned, he perched on the tallest pine, chest heaving, eyes blazing with freedom. He realized then that he had not forgotten his past at all. It was inside him, reshaped into courage. The memories were no longer stones. They had become wind beneath his wings. The following days felt like a new life. Sori awoke with the sun and no longer dreaded the sky. His wings sliced through dawn's gold, and the air carried him with ease. Other birds noticed and gathered around, chirping in delight. "You fly differently now," they said, "as if the sky belongs to you." Sori's chest glowed with warmth, not of pride, but of release. He no longer hid at the edges of the flock. Instead, he guided younger birds, showing them how to trust the wind. When one sparrow complained about yesterday's hunger, Sori whispered gently, "The sky only feeds those who fly today." He saw in her eyes the same fear that once chained him, and he offered not stones but songs, not burdens but courage. Slowly, he realized the gift of letting go was not just freedom for himself. It was light enough to share with others. One twilight, Sori perched beside the old owl once more. The elder's feathers gleamed silver beneath the fading light. "You look lighter," the owl said with a knowing smile. Sori bowed his head. "I thought I needed to wait to remember, but it was only keeping me from living. Now, every beat of my wings remembers for me." The owl's eyes softened. "You have learned what many never do. The past is a teacher, not a cage." Sori let the words settle deep within him. He felt no urge to argue, no fear of losing what he had released. Instead, he felt a quiet joy, like a river that finally stopped clinging to stones and simply flowed. That night, as stars scattered across the heavens, Sori sang. His voice carried farther than ever before, not heavy with sorrow, but bright with freedom. For the first time, his song was truly his own. Seasons turned, and Sori became known across the forest not as the bird who lagged behind, but as the one whose song lifted others. Travelers paused to listen, and fledglings followed his flight with eager eyes. Yet he never forgot the lesson carved by struggle. Freedom is not the absence of memory, but the courage to live beyond it. One crisp morning, a young finch approached him with trembling wings. "I am afraid," she confessed. "I lost too much. If I let go, I will lose myself too." Sori looked at her the way the owl once looked at him, steady, kind, unshaken. "You will not lose yourself," he said gently. "You will find the self that was waiting beneath the weight." He lifted his wings, inviting her to follow. As she hesitated, Sori rose, singing not of yesterday, but this very dawn, showing her that the present could be enough. And so, the little bird who once clung to stones became a guide to others still bound by the past. Sori no longer feared storms or shadows, for he had learned that wings are strongest when freed from yesterday's chains. Each sunrise was no longer a burden to survive, but a gift to embrace. When he sang now, the forest listened, the rivers paused, the leaves shivered, and even a wise owl closed his eyes to savor the melody. His song carried a truth carved from pain and shaped by release. That happiness is not found in holding on, but in letting go. The flock soared higher, the young finch beside him slowly finding her courage. And as the sky stretched endless above, Sori whispered to the wind, "The past may rest behind me, but the present will always be mine to fly." At last, he was free, and at last, he was home. This was the touching tale of Sori, the little bird who carried the heavy weight of his past. At first, his memories were like stones in a pouch that dragged him down, keeping him from flying freely. But with the help of a wise owl and the courage to let go, Sora discovered that true strength comes not from clinging to yesterday, but from embracing today. In the end, he found happiness, freedom, and even inspired other birds to live in the present. Thank you so much for joining this journey. Remember, we cannot change the past, but we can shape today with every choice we make. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you have any questions or thoughts, write them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you soon in the next story, my friend. Until then, keep flying light and free.